waters that we have through which the ships call onto the ports, whether they are sufficient. There was a commodity analysis done, and we forecasted the traffic between various clusters, and we try to capture what capacities are required on the demand side. We looked at what is the present capacity and what is the required capacity and where the shortfalls are. And we commented on the adequacy of NMDP and various strategy that the country has to adopt going forward. Now, we come to container, so we'll take every sub-sector one by one: container, dry bulk, liquids, other cargoes, and we'll go sector by sector and try to see where India stands and what are our conclusions in our work. So you can see the total traffic has been growing pretty rapidly, even at a global level, where Asia's growth has been stupendous, which is accounting for a very large percentage of the global globally also. Containers are growing last 15 years. If you look at it, almost by 9.35%. In India, the growth rate of containers has been around 15%, more than 15%. So it looks that this is a high growth area within the rest of the commodities. And as India opens up more, this growth is expected to be even higher. This is sort of a traffic at Indian ports. Last year we handled 4.52 million TEUs, and our total growth was close to almost 15.7% overall. Eastern sector was around 7% of the total total volume, while the south was 25%, and northwest was 61 plus 6, that is around 67%. So container growth rate in the east has been 11.4, south was 14.7, northwest major ports was 14.1, 14.7. Yeah. And overall, including Mundra and Pipavav, which are the two private ports which have come up, is around 15.7 aggregate growth rate. So this growth is actually accelerating. We've been observing this traffic growth rate of container in the last few years. So last 3 years, average is more than 16%, which is higher than what the previous years was. And we expect to increase it to maybe 18% in time to come. Shipping lines, when we talk to them, they say they are pretty comfortable with a 20-25% growth rate, because that's what they have observed in other parts of Asia, especially China, Far East. In containers, if one can break the country into, in terms of hinterland, into northwest hinterland, then we have eastern hinterland and the southern hinterland, and these are the cluster of ports which are there. So this northwest hinterland is the biggest hinterland which serves the northwest ports. We don't, as of now, the linkages, as I've explained, is of the north with the western ports. Maybe 10, 15, 20 years down the line, it's possible that some of this traffic could go to eastern ports if the connectivity gets established. More so because the trade with Asia is increasing, but it's not very simple because there are shipping related issues also. Most of the trade is from Far East, which goes to Gulf. When the ships return empty, they pick up the cargo from the western ports at a very low freight, which is destined to the eastern sector. And so the ocean freight out of the western ports to the Asian destinations and west coast of US also is relatively lower. The reason being is because their ships are coming empty when they have unloaded the cargo at the Gulf. So to take care of that, the eastern ports have to really come out with strategies which could help them in getting the northern traffic. It's not easy. The connectivity is poor, as well as the shipping related issues make them a little more inefficient compared to the ports in the western side. Southern sector is also going to see a significant growth, and most of the ports are very close to the cargo centers, and most traffic travels by road, while in the northwest side, the traffic which originates near to the ports travel by road, while the hinterland traffic primarily comes by rail. A lot of cargo comes also by break bulk form to the ports and gets stuffed in the port side CFSs and then finds evacuation. Now, this is a sort of a comparison between the international ports and the local ports, where our drafts are relatively smaller compared to some of the international ports. There is a debate that whether we really need to increase the drafts or should we find locations which are deep drafted and build up capacities out there. There are various issues there, because as far as the infrastructure, the hinterland linkages are concerned, the existing ports have relatively better linkages. The new locations may not have linkages. So this is one issue which we would like to examine and probably get your views from the stakeholders, that what should be the country's strategy, whether we should try to build up infrastructure at the existing ports by deepening them, but there is a large recurring cost which comes on account of maintenance dredging. We have done some studies in Malaysia and Far East, and we realize that many of the ports there, they don't do maintenance dredging, and when we ask them, they say we build the ports at locations which does not require significant dredging. So does see many of these 12 major ports probably were created in a time when the ship sizes were not big, but today when the ship sizes have become bigger, how do we really develop? Developing a new port requires a lot of investment on the land side as well as the direct investment out there. So that's one of the significant debate which is there. Yeah. Now, if you look at container trade, we just put down other countries. Today we are handling close to 4.5. We said which countries were handling 4.5 million TEUs in which years. Looking at last 10 years of statistics, so we realized that Malaysia was something like at 4.8 in 2000, and today they are handling 11.34 million TEUs, which is fairly rapid growth. Korea was around 4.5 in 95. China was also at the same level, and of course China's growth has been stupendous. I mean, it's close to 70 plus million TEUs. So, what would be the growth rate as far as India is concerned? Can India do like China or probably Korea or other countries? So, you can see again we have a larger time series available between China and India. So, China and India in the early 80s were more or less similar, but then China grew and then it just galloped to a level which is unimaginable. So the entire Asian growth is coming on account of China. So if we say in 10 to 15 years, if our numbers, economic GDP size, on a very macro basis, trade, everything in 15 years time will be equal to China. So we need probably that much capacity. But whether Indian economy, there's another debate which goes on between whether Indian economy being service oriented. So they say that manufacturing may not really take off in India as much as what happened in China. Yes, it is right, and we have also done a few studies on that, and we realize that container traffic is both export and import. Yes, export, if the manufacturing does not grow as much as what has happened in China, it should be fine. But there could be a large import which could take place if we are able to, even if we concentrate only on services, make services flow through electronic wires, like the way Middle East exports oil, we can export our IQs, but we will still require large imports, and as the economy grows, probably the container traffic will grow, irrespective of whether it is services oriented the economy or manufacturing led. And with FTAs being signed with the entire Asia, I mean, we are talking of a 10-year horizon. There is a possibility that large-scale import may happen, and that could be fine, because if there are other people who can produce things at a competitive prices, and if we can excel in services, so that is one place where probably eastern ports could have a upper edge over northwestern if they are closer to the Asian manufacturing hubs, and eastern ports could become the import hubs and the distribution centers and logistics hubs. So, but yeah, next. This is the study on transshipment. India's many of the eastern ports and southern ports, the traffic goes for transshipment. While if you look at direct destinations, JNP, this is a little older data, but if you look at JNP, most of the services are direct, while the rest of the ports, it's all transshipment to other. There is also a debate whether India can develop transshipment hubs, especially in the southern side, which is